City Council Committee on Administration and Finance co-posted with the Committee of the Whole met remotely on Thursday, March 24th, 2022 at 6 p.m. for the purpose of discussing compensation for the mayor, Section 2-142. Via remote participation in accordance with Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021 and as amended by Chapter 22 of the Acts of 2022, the subcommittee meetings are held to take action for the purpose of making recommendations to the full councils. Individuals may participate remotely in the meeting via remote participation platform called Zoom. Members of the public and/or parties with the right and/or requirements to attend this meeting may access the remote participation meeting through one of the following ways. There's the link that's on the city's website with the password 809432, or by telephone calling US 877-853-5257. City of Salem City Council Committee A and F co-posted committee whole agenda May 24th, 2022. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technology means. In the event that we are unable to do so on matters not requiring a public hearing, we will post on the city's website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of the proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. Persons requiring auxiliary services for effective communication, such as sign language, interpreter, and assisted living device, or print material in digital format, or reasonable modification in program services, policies, or activities may contact the City of Salem ADA coordinator as soon as possible and not less than 2 business days prior to the meeting. Agenda: discussing compensation of the mayor, Section 2-142. And that's what we're here to do tonight. And with us tonight, we have members of the committee, myself, Councilor Hapworth, Councilor McLean, Councilor Merkel, and Councilor Watson-Felt. Not being members of the committee, we have Councilor Prosnewski, Councilor Riccardi, Councilor Varela, Councilor Cohen. Also with us tonight, we have the Finance Director, Anna Friedman, and our city's Human Resources Director, Lisa Camerata. With that, we also have with us Councilor Dominguez as well. With that, just to give a little background, this is something we do is we as a council by ordinance set the compensation for the mayor, as had multiple conversations with the city clerk, the Human Resources Director, and Beth Renard, the city solicitor. We really need to clean up some of the language in here. It's a little confusing, and some of the dates that reference aren't actually correct. But basically, the way that this ordinance works is we meet to set the compensation rate for the mayor, and when you go further into the ordinances, the city councils, the way that the city councilors are compensated, they're compensated at a percentage of the mayor's compensation, but that compensation doesn't take effect until after the next election. So anything we do right now, if the will is to decide to give the mayor a raise, then it would not affect our compensation. Our compensation would be affected after the next election on January 1st of 2024. And that's when that would take an effect. So that's just that language is put in so we as a body couldn't vote ourselves in a raise because our compensation is linked to the mayor's compensation. All that being said, with us tonight we have the Human Resources Director, and I know that she's part of the ordinance that says that we shall look at a survey of different salaries, and I know that she sent those out to the members of the committee previously. So Lisa, if you would please talk about where we are with the mayor, where she sits with our neighboring communities, and what, if any, recommendation you may have.
So, hi everybody, how are you? It's nice to see everybody. This is almost like deja vu. I feel like we did this not too long ago. Just there's a few more of us here at the same time. So I think actually, Councilor, I only sent it to you, so as the chair. So I don't know if you forwarded it to everybody, or does everybody have what you're referencing? I see.
No, I don't.
Okay, so let me do that. Hold on.
Can we screen share?
Oh, yeah. Okay, I could do that. You're asking me to go outside of my technological comfort zone. Hold on.
You're asking me to too, but that's fine. It's just a
Oh,
big.
hold on, I'll do it.
But
Let me
like,
just give you 1 second. Sorry about that.
no, that's fine. And that's my error because I thought that I didn't look at the CCs. I thought it went to everybody. That's my fault.
All right, now let me just do this whole screen sharing thing. I'm usually pretty good at this, but there's an awful lot of you and I don't want to look like I don't know what I'm doing. So give me 1 second.
That's fair.
Oh, share screen.
Look at that.
So this is, let me just see all of you now. So can you see?
Yep.
So this is from, is everybody can see it? So my format is pretty similar to what we've done in the past. So this was compiled in February, which is just last month. This is so up to date that it's like perfectly up to date because I did this myself last month. And my staff called other communities, of course. But what we did, these are all the communities that the council looked at back in 2019. So it's alphabetical. So we have the city, the population, what the mayoral base is, any stipends, the reason for a stipend, and what the actual dollar total is. And then what we do is we average it, and there's an average at the bottom for each column. So I know that Salem is a gateway city, so I did put the gateway city column in here. I actually have two spreadsheets. I think we'll start with this one because these are the exact same communities we used back in 2019. And so we can just go right here just to show you what we did. So in Beverly, there's the population, the mayoral base is 120,000. There's a stipend of 6,000. That's for mayoral expenses. And the actual cash is 126,000. And so Braintree, you can, like I said, we can just go down the line, but this column here that's highlighted, that's the actual base. Column D are the stipends, the reasons for them, and then the actual cash total. Danvers gets a little, sometimes I use different words. Sometimes I call them outliers. Because this one, the base is 203,000 to start. There's an auto allowance along with 8% of the base is actually put into a deferred comp account. So I did put all that together to come up with the 224,951. So I think what this shows us is the average. And as I said, these are the same communities we used in 2019. The average is 135,812.61 on the actual mayoral base. And then the total with stipends is a little closer to $140,000. Any questions on this piece?
Oh, could we see the Gateway City piece if that's
Yes.
available?
Okay, now wait a minute. Give me 1 sec.
Oh, look, we're all back.
And let me just go back to this. And can everybody see this one?
Yep.
And so this starts with Attleboro. So the interesting thing on this one is I do have Attleboro is highlighted. This is the same, except these are the gateway, all the gateway cities are included here. So you have the communities that are in the last one that were the exact ones from 2019. And then this also includes all the gateway cities. So Attleboro, I do have a highlight down the bottom here. Yellow highlight was not received. I couldn't get anything with clarity even from their website by looking up their budget. The other thing I want to comment is Methuen. While it's a gateway city, I highlighted that one in green. That is the lowest salary on the scale. I put down here that Methuen mayor, actually, I read some articles about it because I thought that sounded really low, especially if it's a gateway city and the population is actually higher than ours. He refused an increase by the council. I did put it's a political mess in the fill-in right now, if you know anything about the way their budget is with the police, and it's just, I definitely call that one an outlier. In fact, I put it right in there, definitely leave that one as an outlier, because I just think it kind of really skews the data based on what's happening up there, because they do have some financial problems with their budgets, and the police with that's the community, for those of you that didn't know, had the superior offices targeted to make over $400,000 a year. So there's just some real disparity up there. And Worcester, I have just a comment that you have a city manager, that's information from 2020. I don't have anything more current than that, but everything else in here is current to what we could get. So you'll see, like, for example, Danvers is in here, but the other communities we included is, Barnstable, Brockton, Chicopee, because again, these are the gateway cities. And the format is the same. We have the city, the population, the mayoral base, and then we go to any stipends, the reasons for the stipend, and what the actual cash total is. And that's down the bottom, and that's pretty close to 140,000 on the overall compensation. And the average, I think, is maybe a little bit higher. Any questions on this?
Thank you, Lisa, for providing that. Could you just scroll down again? So right there, so the Salem's is the one in red at 150.
Yes.
And the total average is basically 140, 139, 674, 75.
Yeah, that is a larger one though, right? I mean, it's not that much off from the one that has a community. It's like a $300 difference. The other one is a little closer to 140,000 on the overall compensation.
Okay. So I guess it's the will of the committee to, actually look at this and then decide which communities we basically are closer aligned to see what our compensation is. I mean, obviously with the range, with the average being somewhere close to 140, we're obviously in the range. It's just a determination whether or not what exactly it should be. So with that, I'll open it up to the floor for any questions. I see Councilor Happel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Lisa, for putting this together. I just, before you send this out to the council, it just looks like if you go back to the Gateway Cities tab.
Oh, did I switch it already? I was looking for the one from 2019 as well. Hold
Tab
on.
I just want to make sure that there wasn't like a formatting error with the cells or something. So Barnstable population is not, this isn't the second largest city in Massachusetts, right? So I just wanted to make sure that wasn't like, I think that Barnstable is probably like 30,000 people or something, right?
28,000. There's an extra two in the
Maybe
front.
maybe that's what it is. Yeah, I just wanted, if you, just to make sure there wasn't like a formatting error, there wasn't something flowing through correctly. 28 sounds accurate.
Yeah.
About that. I know these are good.
No worries. I'm sorry. Just to make sure that we.
That's a good catch.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure that we're accurate. That's fine. Thank you, Councilor.
I do know that Springfield is huge, though. That number's probably great. No, thank you. I apologize for that. I really do. That was probably typing too fast.
Anyone else have a question? I just I sent both of these files off to the city clerk to ask her to forward them to everybody, just so they could have them for their records, if they so choose to. Councilor Dominguez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Not being a member of the committee, I want to thank Lisa for this great information. I don't have a question, I just have a comment. But what I see, the average total and salary, we are in the ball range. I think that we are in a very good position, even for the salary for the mayor and also for the city council. So for me, it's look like, according to what I think is, we should stay the same way we are right now. Not that I'm in a position of any raise. I think that we should be paying anyone to put the time and effort, especially our mayor. I think she deserves to be paid But at this point, I see that we are in average. We're not underperforming on this side. So my comment is that we should stay the way we is and maybe revise in another, maybe another time when it's time come, so we can adjust this. I'm very, very concerned when I see anyone working that we are paying them under what they're supposed to be paying. So at this point, I think that we're okay. That's a comment I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Anyone
So-
else? Oops, who's,
No, Councilor Tapworth, I do have a comment after that, but I can wait. That's fine.
oh, Counselor Hapworth?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just curious if there's a breakdown in here as to which cities have a city manager, if there's a way to potentially see that, or I don't know what that would look like. I guess not. I guess from my perspective, it would seem to be a big differentiator between cities if a city with a city manager versus, or did you just include the city manager in some of these cases? It looked like in the case of Worcester, it was just the city manager.
Yeah, I mean,
Amherst is-
you mean like a town manager or a town administrator as opposed to a mayoral form of government?
Yeah, I guess looking at that, like there's the position of mayor is not apples to apples always across the board. Sometimes it's more of a political role than an administrative.
Right. So I don't have this program. I mean, I know some that are cities versus a town, but I didn't do it that way. I certainly could, and just, I could probably do it while we're here. I will comment that I can also share the screen from 2019 that the amount was actually, the amount that was actually set for the mayor ended up being higher than the average. So I just want to bring that to the council's attention. Let me see if I can share that screen. Oh, actually, you can see it now. Right here's 2019 here. And so I think at the time, right, so the average was 130. And again, these are the communities that we used. And the overall was 133. And I think the salary was set, it might have been incremental, I would have to look at, but I do know that the amount that was set was actually higher than what the average was. And where this is a new, and this is a newer body, I mean, Councilor McCarthy may remember, but actually, Councilor McCarthy, I think you're the only one that was here then.
Counselor
yes.
Dominguez might have been, but that's fine.
Oh, that's right, Councilor Dominguez, I'm sorry.
Anyone else have a question? Counselor Watson Felt?
Thank you, Chair. I do have a question, just a little bit more background on the frequency of increases and what those increases have been over the last handful of reviews for the mayor. Has there been any historic standard of like basic percentages, or how, I mean, just for those of us that are new, how have the last series of rounds gone in this conversation? Has there been a review of incremental increases?
It's kind of, it's always been a bit of a political football, because when you look at the way the mayor is compensated, it's the city council salaries are
Right.
linked to the city, a link to the mayor's. When I first started a long time ago, the mayor's base salary was a lot less, but the council's salary was linked to that with a percentage, and also with a stipend for basically like paperwork. And then over the course of time, that was changed because that became a logistical problem for accounting for you. You basically, as a council, you'd have to account for your the money you were receiving in order, as a compensation you were supposed to be doing, for whatever you were doing, sending out information to people, mailings, or whatever you were doing. It's a ways to communicate, so that they rolled that back into the percentage. it started off, with no review, so that we always went through periods of the mayor would be, the mayor's position would be undervalued, and then we'd have to compensate to make up for that. I personally, there's never been some appetite for it. It seems like currently, in my opinion, the mayor's salary is pretty much where it probably should be right now, but moving forward, it probably, like everyone else's salary, should be, I've always been one that it should be, let's take the politics out of it and link it to either a certain percentage or an index. So that way we don't have to come back, and then maybe there's a 4-year, instead of a biannual review, there's a 4-year review, like after the mayor gets elected. After the mayor's position is elected, then you review to make sure that you fit within a salary range. But right now, it's basically, the last time we voted in an increase, we put some language in place that it would be reviewed every 2 years. We did that because of when you go to look at the city council's compensation, like anything we may or may not do prior to the first meeting in April, as required by ordinance, the city council does not receive any additional compensation until January following the next election. So,
Right. May I ask one follow-on question, Councilor?
Sure.
When was the last increase and what was the jump? Ooh, I'm sorry about my
It
dog.
went from, it's in some of them, but I believe when you look at the ordinance, it went from 135 to 150. That was the last jump. That was probably 4 years ago, I believe. Elisa might have that in front of her.
I was just going to pull her file. I'd love to tell you that I know all this stuff by heart, but I don't. But I'm just going to pull, because I'm just going to look at it. Just give me a second. I want to take a look at that. I had a feeling as we were talking that was going to come up, and I'm like, oh, why didn't I think ahead? I'll be right back.
It's in the section 2 of the ordinances, section 2, 142, I think. I was looking at that earlier today. I'll try to pull it up as I'm talking to you as well. But I want to say it was, I want to say the last jump was from 135 to 150, where we are now. And prior to that, it was less. I remember being on the council floor having this debate years ago, and someone said, just jump her to 135, then we don't have to have this debate for the next 5 years or something like that. And whatever it was, we're all sitting there looking, you're really making that motion? I forget. I think it was Councilor Siegel, I think at the time, made to make the jump, but that, I believe that was the last big jump. So, and it was actually in, I want to say it was in 17 that we went from 135 it was 135 and 117, and then 2 years ago or 2.5 years ago, whatever it was, we jumped it to 150. Because the way the ordinance is written, we only do it every 2 years. So you have to take into effect that you're giving someone a raise every 2 years. So you have to almost realize you're going to get a jump because they're not getting an annual raise, which I find a little weird myself, but that's just the way at the time we wrote the ordinance, we looked at the ordinance in such a way that we as councils wouldn't be voting ourselves a raise. So if that makes sense. Are you all set, Councilor Watson-Felt, for right now? Because I see Councilor Cohen and then Councilor Merkel.
Thank you, Chair McCarthy, not being a member of the committee. I just did a little Google, and according to the Salem News, in 2017, it was raised from 120 to 150, and then there was no raise in 2019.
So actually, if I could just clarify that, it was done in 2 steps. It was 30,000 of a raise, but it went to 135. In 1/1 of 18, and then 1/1 of 19, it went to 150. So it didn't happen all, you know what I mean? It wasn't like 130, it wasn't 30,000 right out of the gate. The council vote was for 1/1 of 18 to go to 135, and then it went to 150 on 1/1 of 19.
That is correct. That's what I just looked up. It was prior to 1/1/18, it was 120, and then position was a $30,000 raise, which was phased in over a longer period. So in 1/1/18, it went to 135, and in 1/1/19, it went to 150, as was just stated. And then you all set with that, Councilor Cohen? But thank you for bringing that to our attention. Councilor Merkel.
Thank you, Chair McCarthy. Yes, let me take down my hand. Yes, a couple observations when I look at this that come to mind is I don't see it as apples to apples with Salem's, unique position of managing a lot of tourism and, an unusual situation in October. So I don't see the comparisons of population, definitely the only consideration here. But I do see that there were substantial adjustments in the last 5 years. So the only thing that comes to mind for me is that, there has been substantial increases in cost of living. There's been inflation. So maybe a suggestion of a reasonable adjustment for inflation would be appropriate.
Thank you, Council. Anyone else? Councilor Hapworth, is that your hand? Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think I would tend to agree. I think that actually agree with both Councilor Merkel and Councilor Dominguez that I do think that this is mostly in line. It looks to be mostly in line with other area communities right now. I think that if I'm just thinking just generally what we would want to see, I think that I would rather do a small incremental increase now and a small incremental increase 3 years down the line than to do a large jump like that. I think that's not appropriate to sort of manage ourselves that way and to give increases that way to this position. But I don't think we're far off the mark where we are right now, based on what I see on this. So I think something small would be reasonable here, but I don't know what others' opinions are.
Thank you. Anyone else? Council McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think I agree with Councilor Dominguez that it seems like the compensation is in line with what's appropriate, excuse me, and fair. And by my reading of this sheet right now, although it's not wildly out of line with the average, it does seem like the mayor is sort of well above the mean. Most of the compensation that I'm counting, I think in terms of individual numbers, I think the mayor currently is compensated more than most other mayors on the list. And looking at the ordinance, I agree with the chair that there's a lot of cleanup to be done in here. The ordinance includes very specific dates and amounts from when the decision was made, which is odd. I agree. We've got to clean that language up, and I concur with the idea actually of getting away from biennial review and moving to a compensation review that's in line with the mayor's election versus our election, which I think makes a little bit more sense. You're talking about that office's compensation. So I think the review should come when the office potentially is changing hands, or when the voters have spoken and said, we're putting you in for another term. And that seems like an appropriate time to look and say, is the compensation right with the job you're doing?
Thank you. Anyone else? Lisa, do you have anything to add before I ask for a motion?
No, I'm happy to answer any other questions. I mean,
Yep.
Numbers are what they are. You know what I mean? the
I-
numbers
I-
apply.
Totally
I
agree.
think that last time it was done incrementally, which, I think, at the time seemed to make sense.
Council Watson Felt.
Thank you, Chair McCarthy. I guess one last question and then a comment. So what was the cost of living increase given to city employees last year? On the average, I know we just did this and I apologize. It's something like 2.5 or 3%. Is that right?
I think it would depend on the different unions, but I think that was about right.
Yes.
Non-union. Yeah, sorry. Non-union staff.
Oh, non-union?
Yeah.
Lisa would be better. I mean, I was on the A&F last year. It was about the same.
Non-union, I believe, was 3% on 7/1 of 21, and there was, there was,
Yeah.
it was
3.
0/7/1 of 20, 7/1 of 21 was 3%.
So it was 3% for the non-union employees? So it's 3%, Council.
Thank you, Chair. I think my comment is that I generally am in agreement. I think that the mayor's salary at this point is in a relatively fine position. I think we're where we need to be at on that. I think I take Councillor Hapworth's comment really to heart when he says, I think we need to be thinking ahead about incremental increases rather than any, for unforeseen large jumps. But I don't know that we're quite there yet. I would be supportive of nothing larger than last year's cost of living increase. I think for where we're at, if any increase at all right now. And I also support Councillor McLean's comment that we maybe need to revisit what the schedule of review looks like.
I've definitely
Thanks.
taken that to note over the last couple days with regards to the language in the ordinance. I had to make multiple phone calls to different people to totally understand, which shouldn't be that difficult to understand. So, and there are
Thanks,
some
Councillor.
references. There's some references to dates that don't make sense, like why it still references 2016 is beyond me. I had asked multiple questions about that, but anyway, we'll work through that after we deal with this. Thank you,
Thanks.
Councilor. You're all set with your question? Thank you. Councilor Merkel.
Thank you, Chair McCarthy. Yes, I also want to express that I would be comfortable with an incremental cost of living in line with what's being done at this time of 2 or 3%.
Okay. Anyone else? Anyone want to make a motion? Let the record reflect that the council president has joined us. Council Hapworth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd make a motion to present an increase to the full council of 2.5%.
Council Hapworth makes a motion to increase the compensation of the mayor by 2.5%.
I would second that, Councillor.
Seconded by Councilor Watson Felts. Any further discussion? Actually, I'm a little remiss. I looked in the participants earlier, and there was only a couple members of the public. Would anyone from the public want to comment before we take a final vote on this? And seeing no one with their hands up, I will assume that no one from the public wants to make a comment relative to this. So we have a motion on the floor by Councilor Hapworth, seconded by Councilor Watson Felt, to increase the compensation of the mayor's salary by 2.5%. Seeing no further discussion. Councilor Hapworth,
Yes.
Councilor McLean,
No.
Councilor Merkel,
Yes,
Councilor Watson Felt,
Yes.
Councilor McCarthy, yes. So in the matter of increasing the compensation of the mayor by 2.5%, we have 5 members voting, 4 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The matter carries and will be sent.
Counselor?
Yes,
Excuse me, Chair, I think Counselor McLean voted no.
I did.
Is that
I
right?
said 4-1.
Oh, sorry, I thought you said none in the in
No, I'm
negative.
sorry.
Thought so too.
Got it. Thank
Sorry.
you.
4-1. I correct myself if I misspoke. I had it written down 4-1. So the vote on that matter was 4 in favor, 1 in the negative. The matter carries. I'll entertain another motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Councilor Watson Felt moves to adjourn. All those in favor?
No.
Seconded by Councilor Merkel. All those in favor? All those opposed? See you guys in a few minutes. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Anna.
Nice to see everybody. Have a good evening.
You too.
Thanks, you too.